Here's how to really cash in on this year. Get serious. Life is serious. We're here to instruct, we're here to grow, we're here to learn, we're here to get the best we possibly can. Serious. Life is serious. The future is serious. How come such a difference from those who can reach such incredible heights and those who haven't yet found the answers for their life and their health and their future? We just have to ponder that and let that give us a note of seriousness, a note of seriousness. It's serious whether you win or lose. It's serious whether you succeed or fail. It's serious whether you've got a good future carved out for yourself or you do not have. And I'm asking you to take it serious. Take your own future serious. What you can do for your family, take it serious. This is serious business. So that's the first thing I want to bring to you. To have the best year ever this year, get serious. You know, study, learn, grow, change, develop. Never let it be said you didn't learn. Right? If you want to solve your problems, you got to learn. If you want to take advantage of an opportunity, you got to learn. We can't come here and just give you the marketing plan, give you the product, send you home. We got to stay for a while. Learn, stay for a while. Put on those cassettes and stay for a while. Learn from your own experience, right? So the call didn't go well, all the stuff. Guess what they did when they finished that call? They made another call. What else could we do to make it better? How could we possibly improve? This is called the possibility for life change. Starts with education. Don't be lazy in learning. Don't be lazy in picking up the ideas. Don't be lazy in learning from your own experience. That's why you've heard from some people that have shared their testimonial here and given you some of their ideas, ways, and means. Learning is the beginning of wealth. Learning is the beginning of life change. Do some learning. Take it back home. To have your best year ever, make your dreams come true, get smart. A few simple disciplines practiced every day, and you've started a whole new process called a whole new life. And if you keep up that process, not only with your health habits, but with your money habits and with your communication habits, with your sales habits and management habits and every other habit that you've got, if you'll start that process, eliminate the errors and replace it with disciplines practiced, I'm telling you, you can start this process of life change immediately. After today, you don't ever have to be the same again. Only by choice. Errors in judgment, disaster. Few simple disciplines, wealth beyond imagination. Let the miracle of everything that's available work for you and start working on the inside. Work on your philosophy. Work on your attitude. Work on your personality. Work on your language. Work on the gift of communication. Work on all of your abilities. And if you'll start making those personal changes, I'm telling you, everything will change for you. Work on yourself. Then you bring more value to the partnership, to the marriage, to the franchise, to the corporation, to the enterprise, to the community, to the nation. Self-development, personal development. The best contribution you can make to someone else is self-development. Not hasty if it isn't required, but don't lose much time. Here's the time to act. When the idea is hot and the emotion is strong. That's the time to act. Don't use the excuses they use. It's called the language of the poor. Switch gears, switch language, switch ideas, switch strategy. Start with the simplest of disciplines. And don't bemean any of these disciplines. The smallest of disciplines starts the process of life change. And if you'll invest in this thing called discipline, you can have whatever you wish. It's called the beginning of a miracle. If you will get better, everything will get better for you. What a clear message that was for me. He said, if you'll change your philosophy, if you'll change your habits, if you'll refine your thinking, if you'll change and accept some new disciplines, if you'll turn the corner where you've been in the past, go for a new life for the future, he said all kinds of remarkable things will happen for you if you will change. Here's what we must learn to do. I didn't go to work to try to change circumstances. I went to work to try to change myself. And I picked up that promise. My teacher shared with me that if I would change, my income would change. If I would change, my bank account would change. If I would change, my future would change. And sure enough, his promise came true for me. You know, the companies were about the same. What they paid was the same. Circumstances around me were the same. You know, my negative relatives were the same. But I was not the same. That's how my life changed. Things started working for me, changing my life all those years ago. We don't have to change what's going on out there. That's the wind that's blowing. All we have to do is change what's going on in here. And now there's several ways to do that. The first subject he called personal development. We must learn from personal experience. Pretty simple. Learn from what happens to you. Take a look back over the last few months. Did you make some mistakes? How could you correct those for the future? Take a look back over the last year. Have you done it right or done it wrong? Let's correct it for the next year. Mr. Schoaf asked me when I first met him, he said, Mr. Rohn, how are you doing? You've been out there now 6 years. And I said, I'm not doing very well. He said, I suggest you not do that anymore. What a simple, swift analysis to my situation. He said, if you keep doing it, the next 6 years will be like the last 6. You don't want that to happen. Let's make the changes. So learn from your personal experience. Second, other people's experiences. That's me, other people. That's your teacher. That's your friends and colleagues. The people you meet that can pass along to you their experiences, what's happened to them, the mistakes they made, how they corrected them, how they changed their health and changed their bank account and changed their income and changed their future. Other people. Now, there's two kinds of people to learn from. One is failures. It's too bad failures don't give seminars, right? That would be valuable. Have them tell you how they lost it all and threw it all away, threw their health away and threw their friendships away and things didn't work out well. That would be valuable. But now then we must also learn from positive, people that have done well. They've got the health, and so we ask them, how did you become so healthy? They've got the skills, so we ask them, how did you become this skillful? They've got the income, so we ask them, how did you get here in such a short period of time? So now here's what's important in personal development. In learning from other people, we learn, number one, by observation. We learn what we see. We watch people that are successful in what they do. In sports, we watch their disciplines. In business, we watch their disciplines. Second, we learn by what we hear. Learn by listening. And then listen to the sermon on Sunday morning. Listen to the lectures. Listen to the teacher. Listen to someone who's got something good to say. And then number three is vitally important on personal development, and that is read all the books you can possibly read in your lifetime. Mr. Schoaf got me started on my library. I've got one of the better libraries. And then I started keeping a journal. One of the major things my teacher taught me was to keep a journal. He said, don't trust your memory. If you hear something good, just make a little note and write it down. So I would suggest you do the same. Things that impress you, a poem that impresses you. When you attend a class, some of the ideas that impressed you, jot them down. You read something in a magazine, right? Some ideas. Take those out, put them in your journal. Keep a good journal the rest of your life. This will serve you well. So I want the same thing to happen to you. Value captured that you can resort to later. Go back over it and review it and let it become valuable to you. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Develop the skills. Learn the lessons. Take the classes. Absorb all that is being taught to you these days. And then later on, of course, you can sort it out, what's valuable to you and how to refine it for your business and for your life and for your future. But the main thing is to get it and start this process of personal change. Now let's cover the second subject, setting goals. We need to take a look into the future. There are 4 things to consider in terms of attitude. One is how you feel about the past. Best advice I can give you on that is treat the past as a school. Let it teach you the mistakes you've made, the things that went wrong, the things that didn't work. Don't use the past as a burden to carry, and don't use the past as a club to beat yourself to death. Past losses, past failures, past mistakes. But let the past be a school. Tough school maybe. We've all been through some tough stuff. So if you feel good about the past, draw from it for experience and let it teach you. Then next is how you feel about the future. We've got to have the future well designed. The future is called the promise. The promise of the future can be an awesome force. Designing the future. There's 2 ways to face the future. One is with apprehension, and the other is with anticipation. I promise you, in my travels around the world, most people face the future with apprehension. And here's why. They don't have it well designed. They've sort of left that up to someone else to fix. But here's the best way to face the future, with anticipation. You can face the future with anticipation if the future is clear, if the future is well designed. In setting goals, it's very simple. Number 1, decide what you want. You just take a little time. You sit down and say, what do I want? What kind of skills do I want? What kind of income do I want for the future? Where would I like to go? Places I'd like to visit? Habits I'd like to acquire? Skills I'd like to have? Economics? Friendships? People you'd like to meet? When you've thought about what you want for the future, make a list. If the future gets clear, the price gets easier. Because you got to remember, for every promise, there's a price to pay. Everybody's got to pay the price. Everybody's got to do the deal. Everybody's got to do the disciplines. But here's what I've discovered. If the promise is clear and powerful, the price is easy to pay. The price is some classes. The price is a few books. The price is a few disciplines. The price is finding something that'll make your life better, make you grow, make you change, make you develop. So the first part of the key is to design the promise. Then, what is the price to pay? I'm telling you, the price will be easy. If you'll make the promise of the future clear for yourself, all of the values of life that you could possibly want, and be serious about it, I promise you it's an easy price to pay. Anybody can pay it. And the best advice I can give you is, if I can do it, you can do it. Start setting your goals and see if you can't get a better excitement going for the things you want to accomplish for the future. One of the major reasons for setting goals is for what they make of you in achieving them. My teacher advised me when I first got started at age 25, he said, "Jim, why don't you set a goal to become a millionaire? I'm here to help you." And he said, "Here's why. For what it will make of you to achieve it. Set the kind of goals that will make something of you to achieve them." So part of the key here is to set the kind of goals that will make something of you. Don't set them too low so that you don't have to grow and you don't have to read and you don't have to try and you don't have to stretch. Don't set them too low. And then don't sell out. Don't go for something that's going to cost you your virtue or cost you your values or sell out your principles. There's a good middle road here to follow. Goals that will inspire, goals that will help you grow, change, develop, and become better than you are. So if you want something to pull you through all kinds of challenges, all kinds of difficulties, and things that come at you, you got to have something on out there, beyond today, beyond next week, beyond next month, beyond this year, that pulls you into the future. And the clearer it is, the stronger it pulls. The more dynamic it is, the more it affects your life, your spirit, your heart, your soul. It also creates imagination. It gets your mind working on how to achieve that purpose. And if your mind will work, and if your heart works, and if your spirit works, and if you have good input, like good ideas, I'm telling you, there isn't anything you can't accomplish. Ideas gather dust. They don't produce at all by themselves. It's like philosophy is not the end. Philosophy is the beginning. Philosophy must be invested. When I talked about philosophy, attitude, and disciplines, they must be invested. And if you invest philosophy and attitude in disciplines, then they produce results. Here's a good phrase: wisdom uninvested in labor is wasted. Attitude, even the highest of attitude, which is faith. Faith uninvested is wasted, produces nothing. So the name of the game is not faith. The name of the game is not philosophy. The name of the game is to put faith and philosophy into activity so that it starts making progress. Turning nothing into something. Let me give you that formula while I'm on it here. Turning nothing into something. How do you do that? How do you turn nothing into something? Here's how you start. There's 3 steps to it. Number 1, imagination. And try to imagine yourself in those new, worthwhile, unique positions. So imagination starts to change everything. Now, imagination is not tangible, but it is almost real. Almost real. It's not real, but it's almost real. But it's hard to say that imagination is nothing. But it's nothing in terms of tangible. It's not tangible yet. And you always have to say yet. Imagination is not tangible yet, but it is the beginning of turning nothing into something.
It's the beginning of turning nothing into reality, imagination. Imagination is the ability to see things that don't yet exist. Imagination is real in the sense that it affects. It'll affect your behavior, it'll affect your enthusiasm, it'll affect your emotions. It's real in that sense, but it's not real in the tangible sense. Next is faith. To believe that what you imagine is possible. How would we start to strengthen our belief in that what we imagine is possible to turn it into reality? And there's 2 or 3 ways. One is to believe your own testimony. If you've done it before, why couldn't you do it again? If you've done it once, couldn't you do it the second time? Why not believe in your own testimonial? If I did it before, I can do it again. And that's what's important about personal development. You can lose the money, but not the skill, so who cares about the money? It's like sales. A skill is more valuable than a sale. Sometimes a salesperson says, I need a sale. I said, no, you need a skill. Sales are temporary. Skills are permanent. Now we move to faith to believe that what we imagine is possible. So we study our own testimonial. If we've done it before, we can do it again. Here's what else we study. Other testimonials of somebody who did it. Somebody that built a hotel said, yes, I started with some plans and finally believed it was possible, and here it is. Say, well, if it's possible for one, it's possible for another. In fact, sometimes when we hear the testimonial, here's how they finished. If I can do it, you can do it. See, that's a classic testimonial that gives us now what we call faith. And one of the ancient wise writers said, faith is generated by what we hear. The vocabulary of what we hear, the vocabulary of what we read. That generates faith, to believe that it's possible. Now, faith is not reality. You can't say faith is nothing because it affects. It's like radiation. To us, it's nothing because it can't be seen. Right? You can't see it, but it has an incredible effect. And that's true of faith. Faith can't be seen, right? With the natural eye, it can't be seen, but it has an incredible effect on your attitude, on your behavior, on your disciplines, on your work for the day, and all the rest. Here's what one writer described faith. Faith is a substance of hope. Now, it's not a substance like a brick being a piece of the hotel, but it's almost. It's so close, it's substance. And the writer also said it's so close, it's evidence. Now, not evidence you can see, but tangible evidence that's just as real as all of our human experiences that can't be touched, can't be seen. It's called the unseen magic. Language is the unseen magic. It can't be seen. The words can't be seen as they're transmitted from the speaker to the one who listens, but it can have a profound effect. That means it's more than nothing. Language is more than nothing, but to create something out of nothing, we start with imagination, then we move to faith, which believes it's possible, which is almost real. But now here's what we do with faith and imagination. We deposit it in disciplines and activity. Because faith without the activity serves no useful purpose. Imagination without the activity to translate it into reality serves no purpose. But wisdom and faith deposited in activity creates reality. The reality of a career, the reality of a hotel that wasn't there. Now, here's all you got to do to turn that around. A few simple disciplines practiced every day. A few simple disciplines practiced every day starts to create success. Not at the end of the first day. The first day is the end of a new beginning.
Every new discipline affects the rest. Every new discipline makes a difference. That's why action is so important. The smallest action, the least action. The action that you won't think will matter. It all matters. Take it. Because when you start accomplishing and the value starts to return, you'll find inspiration to do the next one and the next one and the next one. But for this whole process to work for us, we must first master the art of discipline, self-discipline, consistent self-discipline. It doesn't really matter how smart you are or how much you know if you don't use it. It doesn't really matter that you graduated magna cum laude if you're stuck in a low-paying job. It doesn't really matter if you attended every seminar that comes to town if you don't apply what you've learned. Better than knowledge is applied knowledge. And once we've applied our knowledge, we must study the results of that process. Apply our knowledge, study the results. Refine our approach. Finally, by trying and observing and refining and trying again, our knowledge will inevitably produce worthy results, admirable results. And with the joy and results of our efforts, we continue to apply, to learn, to observe, to fuel our ambition with the positive reinforcement of continued progress. Pretty soon, we'll find that we're swept into a spiral of achievement, a vertical rise to success. It takes consistent self-discipline to master the art of setting goals, to master the art of time management, to master the art of leadership, to master the art of parenting and relationships. If we don't make consistent self-discipline part of our daily lives, the results we seek will be sporadic and elusive. It takes a consistent effort to truly manage our valuable time, or we'll be consistently frustrated. Our time will be eaten up by others whose demands are stronger than our own. It takes discipline to conquer the nagging voices in our minds. The fear of failure, the fear of success, the fear of poverty, the fear of a broken heart. It takes discipline to keep trying when that nagging voice within us brings up the possibility of failure. It takes discipline to admit our errors and recognize our limitations. The voice of the human ego speaks to all of us. Sometimes the voice of ego says that we should magnify our value beyond our results. It leads us to exaggerate, to not be totally honest. It takes discipline to be totally honest, both with ourselves and with others. It takes discipline to change a habit, because habits are formed a little bit each day, every day, every day. Once habits are formed, they act like a giant cable. They act like a nearly unbreakable instinct that only long-term disciplined activity can change.
You just got to go home and make a list after today. And here's the question to ask as you make this personal list. What am I not doing that would be easy to do? That could greatly change my health, my wealth? What am I not doing I'm neglecting that would be easy to do? Just go home and answer that question personally. You don't have to put the answers on a public bulletin board. This is just all personal stuff. But here's how you get a miracle going for your life. Number one, do what you can. Get a list of the stuff you could do and you haven't done, postponed, and start cleaning that up. You can't start at a better place for personal change. That'll affect your bank account, affect your future, affect your income, affect everything. You can't start a better life change process than cleaning up what you should be doing. The man says, well, my mother lives down in Florida. Should have written her 6 months ago. I just can't seem to get that letter written. I'm asking you to get that letter written, clean that up, and don't walk like other people walk. Don't postpone like other people postpone. You say, well, is it as simple as writing a letter? And the answer is yes. Where else would you start for life change, personal change? Now, here's the second part of the miracle. Number one is do what you can. Here's number two, do the best you can. If that's not your philosophy, I would ask you to amend it. Let me give you the best of ancient script. Here's what it says. Whatever your hands find to do, do it with all your might, do it with all your strength, and do it with all your power. What a good philosophy. That kind of philosophy will revolutionize your life if you haven't picked it up lately. Guy slips in late, company doesn't seem to mind, slips out early, first one in the parking lot, heading for happy hour. Stretches his break, comes early for lunch, late back from lunch. Company doesn't seem to notice. Guy says, best as I can calculate, I'm putting in about a half a day's work and I'm collecting a full day's pay. Little does he know the seeds of his own disaster are already being sown by the weakness of his own personal philosophy. It's not the economy that's going to determine your next 6 years. It's your philosophy about labor and about activity and about miracle and soil and seed and sunshine and rain and the economy and the banks and the money and the companies and the schools and what's going on. It's your philosophy and your attitude, and then your ability to take action. All of that we call the process of life change, miracle working.
Consistent self-discipline.
Set up a discipline when the emotions are high and the idea is strong and clear and powerful. That's the time to set up the discipline. Somebody talks about good health and you're stirred. Say, right, I need to get a book on nutrition. Get the book before the idea passes and before the emotion gets cold. Go for the book. Start the library. Start the process. Fall on the floor. Do some push-ups. Action. Got to take action. Otherwise, the wisdom is wasted. Otherwise, the emotion soon passes. Unless you put it into a disciplined activity. Capture it. Disciplines is called how to capture the emotion and how to capture the wisdom and translate it into equity. Disciplines. You start walking around the block, it'll inspire you to get an apple. Get an apple, it'll inspire you to get a book. Get a book, it'll inspire you to get a journal. Get a journal, it'll inspire you to grow, develop some skills. All disciplines affect each other. Every lack affects the rest. Every new affects the rest. The key is to diminish the lack and set up the new. And you've started a whole new life process. Also, one more thought on discipline. Here's the greatest value of discipline. Self-worth. Self-esteem. People are teaching self-esteem these days, but they don't connect it to disciplines. The least lack of discipline, and it starts to erode our psyche. One of the greatest temptations is to just ease up a little bit, right? The slightest lack of doing your best starts to erode the psyche. Instead of doing your best, doing just a little less than your best. Sure enough, you say, well, it's just going to affect my sales. No, it's going to affect your consciousness. It's going to affect your philosophy. Now you've begun in the slightest way to affect your own philosophy. Here's the problem with the least neglect. Neglect starts as an infection. And if you don't take care of it, it becomes a disease. And one neglect leads to another. And the worst of all, when neglect starts, it diminishes our self-worth, our self-confidence, our self-value. You say, well, how can I get back my self-respect? I'm telling you, you don't have to go to 29 classes. All you have to do is start the smallest discipline that now corresponds to your own philosophy, like I should, and I could, and I will. No longer will I let neglect stack up on me so that I will have the sorry scenario 6 years from now, giving some excuse instead of celebrating my progress. That's the key to discipline. Okay? Let's get kids involved in the least of disciplines. One more, and then one more, and then another one, and then another one, and then some more. And the first thing you know, you're starting to weave the tapestry of a disciplined life into which you can pour more wisdom and more attitude and more strong feeling, more faith and more courage. Now you've got something, a vessel in which to put it. And now the equities start to flow. And the early return, I'm telling you, if you'll start this process, the early return will have you so excited. You'll commit yourself to this strategy for the rest of your life. You'll never go back to the old ways. Join a new crowd. Join a new group. The disciplines to do it. Take action.
Now here's the other side of discipline. If there's considerable time that passes between the moment of awareness and the time of our implementation, then that is called procrastination. Procrastination. Doing it tomorrow instead of today. Procrastination. An almost exact opposite of discipline. The voice within us says, get it done. Discipline then says, do it now. Do it to the best of your ability, today, tomorrow, and always, until finally the worthy deed becomes instinctive. Procrastination says later, tomorrow, whenever I get a chance. Procrastination also says, do what is necessary to get by or to impress others. Do what you can, but not what you must. In every circumstance we face, we are constantly presented with these two choices. Do it now or do it later. Discipline and procrastination. A choice between a disciplined existence, bearing the fruit of achievement and contentment, or procrastination, the easy life for which the future will bear no fruit, only the bare branches of mediocrity. The rewards of a disciplined life are great, but they're often delayed until some time in the future. The rewards for the lack of discipline are immediate, but they are minor in comparison to the immeasurable rewards of consistent self-discipline. An immediate reward for lack of discipline is a fun day at the beach. A future reward of discipline is owning the beach. For most, we choose today's pleasure rather than tomorrow's fortune. So how can you get rid of the easy distractions? How can you keep your mind on what you're trying to do? How can you keep an attitude of doing it all and doing it now? How can you make the choice of discipline over procrastination? How can you stay focused on your ambitions? How can you avoid conversations at the water cooler? You can keep your focus on your work. You can get it done today instead of tomorrow. You've got to really work on your consistent self-discipline on a daily basis, or you'll find yourself distracted. Distracted by negative thoughts, distracted by negative people, distracted by water cooler chatter, and pretty soon, depending on the type of people you've associated with, distracted by your doubts within yourself. Never underestimate the power of influence and associations, and never underestimate the power of your own consistent self-discipline. Now let's take a closer look at discipline, at the 3 steps to becoming disciplined. First, true discipline is not the easiest option. Most people would rather sleep until 10 o'clock than get up at 6. It's easier to go to bed late, sleep late, show up late, leave early. It's easier not to read. It's easier to turn on the television than to open a book. It's easier to do just enough than to do it all. Waiting is always easier than acting. Trying is always easier than doing. Imagine what life would be like if we didn't have to make our bed in the morning, or keep our garage clean, or pay our taxes, or show up for work tomorrow. Wouldn't it be fascinating if we didn't have to do these things? Wouldn't it be fascinating? What do you suppose would become of us? You're right. Not much. For whatever the reason, the system we live in and contribute to is designed to make the easiest things in life the most unprofitable. Profitable seems to be the most difficult. Our world is and always will be a constant battle between the life of ease and its momentary rewards and a life of discipline and its far more significant rewards. Each has its own price, the price of discipline or the price of regret. The second lesson of discipline is that it's a full-time activity. And we've said that the best form of discipline is consistent self-discipline. You see, the discipline that it takes to make your bed every day is the same discipline necessary for success in the world of business. The discipline to organize your garage is the same discipline to organize your business. All disciplines carry through to affect all parts of our lives. If we're disciplined in just one area and lazy in another, guess what? Pretty soon, the lazy side will creep in and destroy the disciplined side. The bad habits in one area of our life will eventually destroy our self-discipline in the areas we've been working on. Consistency cannot be inconsistent. Discipline is the mind being trained to control our lives. Discipline is a set of standards which we've selected as a personal code of conduct. Discipline is imposing on ourselves the requirements for honoring these standards. Once we've adopted these standards of behavior and conduct, we're committed to honor them. And if we don't, then there can be no disciplined activity. Here's the third step to becoming consistently self-disciplined. Number one is realizing that discipline isn't the easiest option. Number two, discipline is a full-time activity, day by day, every day. And the third step to becoming self-disciplined is really a philosophy that holds one of life's unique promises. Number three simply says, for every disciplined effort, there is a multiple reward. That's one of life's great arrangements. Life is full of laws that both govern and explain behaviors. But this may well be the major law we need to understand. For every disciplined effort, a multiple reward. For every disciplined effort, a multiple reward. What a concept. If you render unique service, your reward will be multiplied. If you're fair and honest and patient with others, your reward will be multiplied. If you give more than you expect to receive, your reward is more than you expect. But remember, the key word here, as you might well imagine, is discipline. Everything of value requires care and attention. Everything of value requires discipline. Children require discipline. They must have a structure built for them. They must have boundaries to work within so they feel secure and comfortable to explore and grow. They must learn to recognize what's right and what's wrong, what's acceptable behavior, what's not acceptable. Children require unwavering discipline, consistent discipline, or they'll be confused as to how they're supposed to behave. The most valuable form of discipline is the one that you impose on yourself. Don't wait for things to deteriorate so drastically that someone else must impose discipline into your life. Wouldn't that be tragic? How could you possibly explain the fact that someone else thought more of you than you thought of yourself? That they forced you to get up early and get out into the marketplace when you would have been content to let success go to someone else who cared more about themselves. Your life, my life, the life of each one of us is going to serve as either a warning or an example. In the end, it is your own discipline that acts as the magic catalyst to give substance and depth to your ambition, to achieve your own plans and dreams, to have what you want to have, and to become what you want to become. Your consistent self-discipline is the magic catalyst.
Humans also need words. Words nourish the mind. Words give life. Words create insight. Because there's more than one way to see. If we see with our eyes, we call that sight. But there's another way to see called insight. That's why we come, gather for a couple of days, attend the classes, go to the training, read the books, do all the stuff, is to develop more insight. Letting our mind be nourished to think, ponder, and wonder, and conceive ideas, projects, purpose. Give structure to something for the future, whether it's better health or better career, better future. Next, the mind needs to be exercised. And we talked a bit about that earlier. Exercised by debate. Exercised by reading both sides of the debate, both sides of the question. Major life issues, major political issues. Don't leave yourself out of the great debate. One, the mind needs to be nourished by ideas. Second, it needs to be refined and stimulated and exercised by debate. We need both sides of the human drama represented. The reason why the Bible is such a classic book in studying all kinds of stories is because the Bible is full of stories on both sides, the evil side and the good side. The Bible said, Old Testament said, this king came to power and he was a good king. He ruled for 18 years. And then it says the next king came to power and he was a bad king and he put up idols. He became the bad king. So it reads good king, bad king, showing both sides of the human spectrum and drama. Some stories that we read in the Bible of people to admire, others are people to despise. In your library, you need a book on Gandhi and you need a book on Hitler. One book to show you how noble someone's aspirations can be, and the other book to show you how despicable and how evil someone's goals can be. Both sides we study, good and evil, one we love and one we hate. We study illness, we study health. Someone says, well, you can't study the negative things. You have to study the negative things. You have to give voice to and mind to and time to both sides of the issue so that you can strengthen your side of the argument. Then our personal philosophy needs to be developed so we can see the opportunities on the other side so we can maximize those. And for the balance of your life, that's going to be the twin challenge in developing ideas and philosophy and strengthening all of it so that you can avoid the dangers, maximize the opportunities. Because the dangers never go away. The dangers to our ship of state called the country. The danger to the enterprise, the danger to the corporation. Dangers always lurk, both inside and out. Dangers lurk on the inside of our own mind. The battle of the mind is significant for us every day, what to think, what not to think. My mentor, Mr. Shove, said, stand guard at the door of your mind. And you decide what enters. You decide what to fill up your mind with, because it becomes the material with which you build your future. So, engaging the mind to make rational decisions about life. Beware of the thief on the street that's after your purse. But also beware of the thief in your mind that's after your promise. The thief in your mind that says you're too short, you're too tall, you've never done it before. What makes you think you can do it now? It's not going to work for you. Someone else could find the book, you'll never find the book. If you found the book, you wouldn't read it. If you did read it, you wouldn't understand it. That's stuff that goes on in our mind. So jot down this key phrase. It's one of the best for the day. Whatever you do, don't become a victim of yourself. As you engage in this debate, what to eat, what not to eat, where to go, where not to go, what to say, what not to say, what to do, what not to do, make sure that you strengthen the positive side of this argument with yourself so that day by day you become healthier, day by day you become stronger, day by day you become wiser. Day by day you build a better shield and immunity. An inside immunity to ward off disease, but an outside immunity to ward off all the negative and all the trash and all the stuff that would not enhance your personal development nor your promise for the future. So this is so important in understanding the mind. Feed it. We call it food for thought. That's what a big share of this whole seminar is all about these 3 days, is providing food to think about, thoughts to think about, and then ideas to debate. It's not necessarily what's right or what's wrong, but what's better, what's best. This is okay, but this would be better. With this, yes, you can manage, but with this, you can flourish. With this, you can exist. With this, you can live a fantastic life. So, exercising the mind. Now, to develop the mind, you need a good library. Let me give you 3 parts to your library. Number 1 is your visual library. Zig and I and others have put things on video so you can see it. We ask you to come here today and see what's going on. So part of it comes by visual. Come and see. And then if it's on video, you can see it again and again and again. Key phrase, repetition is the mother of learning. Repetition is where if we hear it again, we see something we didn't see when we heard it the first time. We see something different that we didn't see the first time. Next is your listening library. Zig Ziglar's right. Turn your car into a mobile classroom. You can have a university education in a fairly short period of time just using the traveling time to listen. Key phrase is to listen to voices of value. Discriminate in your listening time. Listening to someone of reputation, someone who has good ideas, someone that's been recommended that has some value. Don't waste your time listening to things that don't count much. Hey, there's some things that are not worth spending the time. You know, they create more poison than they do benefit. So be careful. If somebody says to me, these eggs are rotten, I'm not going to make an omelet and try it. I'm going to take their word for it. So feed the mind, exercise the mind, and build your library. Make this note: you cannot live on mental candy. Just like you can't feed your children ice cream all the time and hope that they will be healthy. So you cannot live on mental candy. Someone says, well, I just read the positive stuff. That's not enough. And the reason is because you need to know both sides of the issue. So start your library like I did, age 25. I mentioned in another seminar, haven't read everything in my library, but I feel smarter just walking in it, right? And smart enough to buy it. Now I got to be smart enough to read it all. Then I got to be smart enough to sort through and decide what's valuable. So make that the next part now. In part of personal development for the mind, you got to sort through what you read, what you see, and what you hear, and decide which of all of that is valuable for you to try and do and master. This is where being a student comes in. Not a follower, but a student. You read one book on good health and it says, do what this book says, you'll live forever. You read the next book on health and nutrition and it says, if you do what that first book says, you'll die young. So someone says to me, Mr. Rohn, which of these books should I follow? Jot this down. Neither one. Don't be a follower. Read both books and make up your own mind. Here's what's important in the final analysis. One of the best phrases for the day, make sure what you finally do is the product of your own conclusion. Make sure what you finally do is the product of your own conclusion. Meaning you don't just follow, but you listen to both sides of the argument. You listen to the controversy. You try to master the points on both sides or three sides or whatever. Then you start charting your own course. It doesn't say you'll make always the right decision on what course to take or what to do. You can refine as you go. But make sure that what you do is the product of your own conclusions. Conclusions from the debate. Conclusion from what makes the best sense to you to try. Now, jot this down. Also give yourself a chance to change. Some things I held on to that I thought this was it. I'm telling you, after a while I gave it up, found out it wasn't it. So give yourself a chance to change. Refine your philosophy. Refine your direction. If you'll give yourself a chance to do that, here's what will happen down the road a ways. A new door will open that you haven't discovered before. Give yourself a chance to change. Reevaluate. So let your library be a testimonial of your dedicated interest in accelerated personal development. That you will read whatever you have to read. You will hear whatever you must hear. And you will watch and see whatever you must see in order to make your life refined and worthwhile and achieve all of your purposes. It takes a lot of effort to learn. It takes a lot of effort to grow. It takes a lot of effort to decide and debate. But jot this down. It's all worth the price.
Now, it's also very important intellectually to know whether or not you're headed this way or this way. And once you decide, 10 years from now, I think that the gathering of my intellectual and personal and spiritual and moral and economic treasure may not be that great. The key is to start right now making these changes to walk this new road. But here's what's exciting to me. Just a few daily disciplines makes a great deal of difference in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. Just a few daily disciplines. And that's what I'd like to talk about in this series, just these few daily disciplines that make the difference, whether you wind up here or here. Good question. 10 years from now, you will surely arrive. The question is, where? We don't want to kid ourselves about where. We don't want to kid ourselves about the road we're walking. I had a day shortly after I met Mr. Schoaf called Do Not Kid Myself Anymore Day. I don't want to go disillusioned anymore. You know, I was using the cross-finger theory back when I was 25, 24, 23. I finally decided that the cross-finger theory was not going to get me what I wanted. That isn't where the treasure lies. That I'm going to have to make sure which of these ways I'm headed. But a few reading disciplines and a few disciplines of mind and a few disciplines of activity, and you can make all the difference in the world whether you wind up here or whether you wind up here. But just a few changes. Sometimes we get the idea that we're doing about 10% and there's about 90% more that we need in order to make the difference for our fortune. And probably the opposite is true, right? We're doing enough things to have arrived here today. We're doing enough things to have bought and shared in the good life so far. And maybe all you need is that extra 5%, 10% of intellectual change, activity change, a refinement of discipline, a refinement of thought. And all we need is the ideas to make those simple changes. And the equity starts gathering in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. I have a good comment for your notes. Now's the time to fix the next 10 years. Now's the time to fix it. Now, sometimes you have to come to grips with reality and with truth. That's what was good for me when I met Mr. Schoaf. I was 25 years old. He was 44 years old. And he brought me a wealth of experience, and he started asking me the tough questions. Big question, he said. Are you reading the books that's going to take you where you want to go in the next 5 years? Excellent question. So you want to make sure. I would assume for all of you, to get where you want to be in the next 5 years, you're either reading the right books or you're not. That's kind of a brilliant statement, right? You're either engaged in the disciplines or you're not. But here's what we don't want to engage in. Disillusion, right? Hoping without acting. You know, wishing without doing. So the key is to take a look and say, where am I? What could I do to make the changes, to make sure that I can take more certain daily steps toward the treasure I want, the mental treasure, the personal treasure, the spiritual treasure, the financial treasure. I don't want to make any errors. Now's the time to adjust my daily program to take me where I want to go. A good note for you to take. We could all use a little coaching. When you're playing the game, it's sometimes hard to see it all. And if you just take a breather, take a little time out. That's what we're doing here in this lecture series. Take a little time out, listen to someone's experiences, which is what I want to share with you, my experiences, my ideas, and see if it might cause for you a little moment of correction so that you can make some changes that'll add up to some extra worth in the next 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. So, ideas, I hope you'll find here during this series. All kinds of ideas, health ideas, enterprise ideas, living a better life ideas, and primarily for this series, skills of leadership ideas. The next key word is inspiration. Inspiration is a mystery, why some people are inspired and some are not. Who knows what that mystery is? Some people have this incredible zest for life and an appetite for living well and doing well, and others seem to take the ho-hum attitude, let it slide, and hopefully it'll work out anyway. I don't know what the difference of that is, but it is exciting to watch people who are inspired. But I think the key to it all is self-motivation. Self-motivation. The guy says, boy, if somebody just
I have a very
turned me
interesting
on,
subject.
hey, what if they don't show
I call
up?
it 5 simple steps to go from average to fortune. Let me give you this simple little talk. How to go from average to fortune. There's 5 simple steps. You might like to make a note of them. Here's the first one.
I think my
Get
personal
serious.
advice to you would be,
That's number
reach
1.
down
I don't know any substitute for
inside
that.
of you.
You've really got to
And
get
come up with
serious.
some
You
more
don't
of
have
those
to be
remarkable human
grim,
gifts.
but you
They're
must be
there,
serious.
waiting to be utilized.
I know a
And
guy
then
that's got a
change
half a
anything for
dozen
you
jokes
want to
keeping him
change.
from becoming
And I
wealthy.
challenge you to do that because you can change.
He's not known as rich.
Let
He's
other
known
people
as a
lead small
joker,
lives, but not you.
which I guess is okay.
Let
if that's
everybody
the
else
kind of
cry
life you
over
want to
small
live.
hurts, but not you.
But it really isn't the best way
Let
to
everybody
live.
else
To go
argue
from
over
average to fortune, you
non-essentials,
must
but
get
not you.
serious.
Deal in things
And you
that
must get
matter.
serious about 2 very important
Make sure
things.
what you
Number
do
1
is the
is setting
product
your
of your own
goals and where you want to
conclusion.
go. Designing the
Don't
next
just learn
5,
how
the
to
next
earn.
10 years is so
Learn how to
vitally
live.
important.
And
What do you
that's
want to do
lifestyle is all
economically?
about.
Where do you want to go?
Learning
What do
how
you
to
want to
live.
be? What would you like to have?
Here's
What
one of
would
the
you like
great
to
challenges
share?
of life.
How much would you like
Being
to earn?
happy with what you have,
How far would you like to
while
go?
in
Those are
pursuit
some major
of what you
questions to
want.
ask. And for that all to work out like you wanted to for the next 5
Your
or 10
style of
years,
seeing,
in my
giving,
personal opinion,
sharing,
you've got to get
enjoying.
serious. Then you have
Not
to
the
get
amount
serious
that
about
counts,
another important
but the
subject.
experience of
And that
choosing
important
to
subject
live
is
with
called
style.
personal
I
development.
remember saying to Mr. Schoaf one
Personal
time,
development is
if I had more
striving
money, I
hard
would
to
be happy.
become the kind of
And
person
he gave me
that you
some of
want
the
to
better
be.
words of wisdom when he said
And to
me,
become the
"Mr.
kind of
Rohn,
person you want to
the
be,
key to
you've got
happiness
to
is
work
not
at it.
more.
10 years from
Happiness is an
now, you
art
will
to be
surely
studied
become
and
someone.
practiced.
The big question
He said,
is, who?
More money will only make
What are
you
you
more
becoming?
of what you
And if you go to
already
work
are.
on it now, sure enough,
More
in a very short period of
will
time, you
only
can take
more
on a new
quickly
direction
send you
to
on
become
your
the kind of
destination.
person you want to be.
He said, if you're inclined to
There's
be
a very
unhappy,
important question to
if you
ask,
get
and
a
the
lot of
question
money,
is,
you will
10
be
years
miserable.
from now, you will surely arrive.
More money will only make you
And
more.
the question is, where?
More money will only amplify.
So to answer the question of where
If
you
you're
want to
inclined
arrive
to
and
be
the kind of
mean,
person you want to
and you
be,
get a lot of
you've got
money,
to get
you will
serious.
be a terror.
So that's
If you
point
are
number
inclined
one.
to drink a little
To
too
make your
much,
life worthwhile
when
and
you get a lot
unique,
of
to
money,
go from
you can
average
now
to
become a
fortune, you've
drunk.
got to get serious.
So style is not more.
Now, the second point
Style is
is
an art,
get smart.
a genius, a design.
To make your life work
Lifestyle
out
is reserved for
worthwhile,
those who
you've got
are
to have
willing
some
to
ideas.
study
You've got to have
and
the information. So
the
you've got to
higher
be
arts of
smart.
life.
In fact,
Lifestyle
in
is
this
culture,
decade, you must be
music,
much smarter than you were in the
dance,
last
art,
decade.
sculpture,
You've got to read the
literature,
books. You've got to come up with the
plays,
information.
concerts.
When I have a chance to talk to
Lifestyle
the
is a
high school
taste of
kids,
the
that's the
fine,
theme of my
the
talk.
better,
Get smart.
the best.
There's nothing worse than being stupid.
Mortimer Adler, the philosopher,
And if you will
says,
read the books, learn
if we
from your
don't go for the
experiences,
higher
do all the
tastes,
things that you
we will
possibly
settle
can
for
to
the
get
lower
the
ones.
information, sure enough, you'll
develop
be
an
wiser
appreciation
this
for
year
the
than you were
fine.
last year.
That is a worthy purpose.
And I've got a few techniques that I teach in
Developing
my
an
seminar
appetite
on
for
how
the
to get
unique
smarter,
things in life.
keeping a journal,
Study the art,
going to the lectures,
reach
going
for
to
the
the
best.
seminars, listening
have
to the
the best in the
sermons,
time
picking
we
up
have
ideas from
available
other
to us.
people.
That is
You
the
just
quest.
must keep up this steady
Remember, it's
process
not
of
the amount,
learning. Never
it's the
cease your quest
imagination.
for knowledge.
Be somebody.
And that's one of the key
Shall we?
points to
Be
go from
somebody.
average to fortune.
Be somebody
Get smart.
wise. Be
Now here's number
somebody
3.
strong.
You've got to
Strength
get going.
is attractive.
All of the
somebody
things that you've
kind.
learned will not do
Now,
you that
consider
much
this.
good if you don't put it
Some
into
people
an
have
action
plenty of
plan.
beautiful things
You've got
in
to
their
get
days,
going.
but
In
they
my
get little
management and
happiness
leadership
from them.
seminar, we teach game
people have
plans,
money,
how to put
but they
all the
have
good
trouble
things
finding
that you've
joy in
learned
their
into
lives.
action.
Imagine
Economic action,
a father
social
wads up
action,
a
personal
$5
action,
bill and
how to
throws it
make
at
the
his son,
changes,
saying,
and how to
"Here,
actually
if you
do the
need the
work,
darn stuff
how to
that bad,
actually
take it."
function.
Same money.
Get going, that's the key.
Poor
Some people are
style.
ever learning, but they don't put it
And
into
remember,
action.
it's not the
They don't
amount
really
that
take the
counts.
action. It's like the man
It's
who
the
keeps
style
bringing
that
materials to the building site
Mr.
and
Schultz
never
taught me
builds anything.
lifestyle in those early
He
days,
keeps bringing in
starting
the
with
sand
small
and the
amounts.
gravel and the
He
windows
said,
and the doors and the
"Imagine
roofing
that you're getting your
material,
shoes
and he
shined,
just stacks up all
and the
these
shoe shine
supplies,
boy
but he
has
never
done a
builds
fabulous
anything.
job.
You've
You
got
have
to
one of the
do
world's
something with what
all-time
you've
great
learned.
shines.
You've got to take action.
pay him
You've
for
got
the
to
shine.
get going.
Now you consider
So that's one of the
from
most
change in
important
your
things to
hand
learn,
what kind
how
of
to
tip to
design
give
your
him.
days, how to
And the
design
question
your
pops
weeks,
into your
how to
mind,
design the
shall I give
months,
him 1
so
quarter
that you take the
or 2
proper
quarters
action
for my neat
to
shine?
get the proper return that
Mr.
you're looking
Schultz said,
for, whether it's economic
if 2 amounts
or
for
personal.
a tip ever come
Get
to your
going.
mind,
It's a
always
major
go
key.
for the higher amount.
Now here's number 4.
He said,
You must
become
get
a
excited.
2-quarter person.
And not just the
I
false
said,
enthusiasm
"What difference
of
would
just
that
pure
make?
positive
1
thinking.
quarter or 2
You've got to
quarters?"
get excited over some
He
very
said,
basic things.
"All
One
the
is
difference
get
in the world."
excited over your
If you said,
ability
"Well, I'll just
to
give
make
him 1
yourself
quarter,"
do the necessary
that
things.
will affect you for the
Because
rest of the
discipline
day.
is major step
will start
1
feeling
toward
bad.
personal progress.
Sure enough,
And
in the
any
middle of
time
the
a
day,
person
you
wishes
will look
to,
down at your
they
great
can
shoe
make
shine
major
and say,
changes in their
"I've
life,
got to be cheap.
personally and
One
socially
lousy
and
quarter.
financially.
That
It
will
doesn't
affect you."
ever have to be the
However,
same after
If
today.
you go for 2 quarters,
No telling what you could
Schultz
do
said,
today if you really
can't
wish to.
believe the feeling
The
you
act
can
of murder
buy
is a
for
clear
another
indication
quarter.
that a person in one
That's
drastic
lifestyle.
act
Becoming
can
a 2-quarter
forever
person
change the course
and
of their
learning
life.
to get
It
joy
just
from
happens
the
to
greater
be
person
in the negative
you are
direction.
becoming.
What I would
Just
ask you
2
to
modest
do,
examples
starting
of
today,
how easy it is to
get
put
excited
style
about
in your
committing an
life.
act.
Make
An
sure
act
you
that's
don't
positive,
miss out.
an act that's
Don't miss
constructive,
anything you can
to make the
enjoy.
changes in your life
Be sure
that
you
you
live
want
your life
made,
in
and to
style.
go the direction that you want to go.
Now let me give you
So
a
that's
neat part
number
of life.
4.
The
Get
pull
excited.
is in the opposite
Get excited
direction,
about your potential.
and it always is.
Human
Here's what
capacity
success
is usually never the
Success
problem.
is learning to move
Little children can learn several
in the
languages.
opposite direction of
We
the
can learn
normal
to do the
negative
most
pull.
incredible things. All we need
Success
to
is
do is
just
take the
overcoming
time to do it.
normal
So it's not a
negative
matter of
downward
capacity.
trend.
It's a matter
I guess
of
that's what life
judgment,
was meant
it's a
to be.
matter of
Overcoming the
excitement, it's a
normal
matter of
negative
will,
downward
and it's a
pull.
matter of wanting
Success
to
is
bad
moving
enough.
in the opposite
So it's pretty
direction.
exciting to know that
Life
any
that
day you
springs
wish,
from the seed really
you can
is
change your life.
moving in the opposite
Any
direction.
day you pick out,
Gravity
you
wants
can
to
make
pull the
major
seed
changes.
down, but sure enough,
It doesn't ever have to
the
be
seed
the same
being
again.
pulled down
And
by
that's
the
exciting.
soil,
Knowing that
takes root,
intellectually and
comes to life,
personally,
right?
you
Comes
can
to life,
actually
takes
do
root,
the
starts
things
to
that
grow,
will make major
and which way
changes
does
in
it
your
grow?
life.
Up,
That's number 4.
right? It gets the roots and the nourishment, but it grows up. It
Here's
pushes
number
its way against gravity.
Number 5 is get
It moves
away.
up, and that's what success is. That's
I
what
have
life
found,
is.
especially
A
in the last
movement in the
15,
opposite
20
direction.
years,
Here's
that
something
there's
else
an
to think
important
about.
thing called
Did
life
you ever hear
balance.
where the expression tip
You've got to
came
learn to
from?
get away. You must
As
learn
in
to get
tipping
away
the
and be
waiter or
alone.
waitress
Learn
in
to
a
get away
restaurant.
and reflect.
Mr. Shelf taught
Learn
me
to
that
get
it
away
began
and learn
as a
how to
symbol
live
for the
as well as how
phrase,
to earn.
to ensure promptness.
How sad it would be
Now,
to learn
Shelf
how to
said,
earn well, but
if a
not
tip
learn
is to
how to
ensure
live
promptness,
well.
when
You
should
must
give it?
balance your life.
Answer.
We teach
Upfront.
something, especially in my
See,
staff,
I
I
didn't
teach
know
us
that.
something called
I said,
lifestyle.
no, you have lunch.
Lifestyle
and if you get
is
good service,
how you learn
leave
to
a good
live your
tip.
life.
If you get
Some people
lousy
have money,
service,
but they don't even
no
know how to
tip.
spend it.
And he
they
said
have
to
time,
me,
but they
no,
don't know
no,
how to
Mr.
spend
Rohn.
it.
Some people are
Sophisticated
successful, but
people
they don't know how to
take a
spend their
chance on
success.
good service.
They don't know what to
They
do with it.
ensure good service.
They don't get joy
by
from it.
giving the
Rather, they
money
get
up front.
animosity.
I
A father
said,
takes
wow,
$5,
what a way
crushes
to
it, and
live.
throws it at his
I
son
had
and
never
says, if you
thought of
need it that bad, take it.
So the next
Now
time
it's
you
the
have
same
someone special to take to
$5.
lunch,
But
call
instead
the
of
waitress
dispensing
over,
it with
arm
joy,
around the
he
shoulders and
dispenses
say,
it with
"Here's
animosity.
$5. Would
That's
you
the
take good
difference in
care
not
of me
knowing
and
how
my
to
friend?"
live. It's called
Show said you
lifestyle.
won't believe what
Then you've
happens.
got to take time
They
to
do what's
cultivate
known
good
as hover.
friends. You've
They
got to take
hover around the
time to
table.
be with your
One
family.
last major point.
You've got to take time
Life
to
and
be with
style
the
is also
people
life and
who are
balance.
important to you.
Make sure
Designing
you pay
your life
attention to
in
all
those
the values
respects.
and dimensions of your life.
Get
One is family.
away.
If you have
Take
someone you
the
care
time.
about, there is no
Reflect
value to
on your
match
life.
that.
Recharge your
One
batteries.
person caring for another is
Do
life
some
in the
growing
best of style
away
and
from your
value.
enterprise.
Protect
Then when
it
you
with
come
a
back to your
vengeance.
enterprise, after you have
If a
taken
chair
this
gets in
time
the
to
way,
balance
I
your
suggest
life,
you destroy the
you will
chair.
find that on the job,
It was
working on your
wisely said
enterprise,
so
things
long
will really
ago,
go
but it's
much
still
better.
true for today.
So those are the 5
There
simple
are
steps
many
to go from
treasures,
average to
But the
fortune.
greatest of these is love.
Get serious,
Better to live in a
Get
tent on
smart,
the beach and have a
get
love affair
going,
than to live in a
get
mansion by
excited,
yourself.
and get away.
Ask me. I know.
There's usually
Family must
about
be
a half
cultivated like an
dozen things
enterprise, like a garden.
that makes 80% of the
Time and
difference.
effort and imagination,
There's usually about a
creativity
half
and
dozen
genius
things that makes
must be
80% of the
summoned
difference.
constantly to keep it flourishing and
Great
grow.
formula.
Next is friendship.
Now, it's not exactly
A
half
priceless
dozen,
value,
it's not
friendship.
exactly 80%, but you
Friends
get my
are those
concept here.
incredible people who know all about you and
Here's
still
another way to
like
put it. Keep looking
Friends are those people who are
for the
coming
few
in when
things
everyone
that
else is
make the
leaving.
most difference.
And as someone once suggested, be sure to make the kind of friends
For your
on
good
your way
health,
up
there's not 1,000
who will
things you
take
have to
you
do.
in on your way down. Life
Not
is a bit of
1,000
both
things
up and down.
every day.
But with
I'm
true
telling you about a
friends,
half a
friends who
dozen
care
good health
regardless of
practices,
your circumstances.
and
The
you'll
ups
take
are
care
more
of most of your
automatic,
health challenges.
and the downs less devastating.
If you're going to set up an
I
office,
do
there's
have
not a
one very
checklist of
special
500
friend, though.
things you need to look at
If I
every
was
day. I'm
stuck in a
telling you, there's
Mexican
about a half a
jail and
dozen.
accused unduly,
A few things will take care of most of it.
I would call this friend.
Now here's the challenge. Once
Guess
you've
why I'd call
found the
this
few
friend?
things that takes
He
care
would
of the
come and get
most
me.
of the challenge,
Now that
now
is a
spend
friend.
most of your time on those few
Someone
things.
who would come and get you. Guess how much
This
you
we
would
simply
spend
call
to get
time
me.
management.
Right. As much as it
In the
would take.
2-day leadership weekend,
Guess
one
how
of my
long you would
major
try
subjects
to
is
get
time
me
management.
out.
Here's what I
You're
call
right.
it. The
As
best
long
kept
as it would take.
secret of the rich
That is a friend. Someone who would come
is what?
and get you.
Time management.
Now, I also have some casual friends who would probably
What
say,
an incredible
"Call me when you
discovery
get
I made
back." I guess
one
we
day.
all have some of those friends.
When I found out that
But friendship is
Rich
so
people
vitally
have
important to
about
those in search of the good life.
24 hours a
Make
day.
sure your friendships get the attention and the effort they deserve.
And poor people have
Properly
about
nourished, they will give back to you
24
that
hours a
priceless
day. Wouldn't that
treasure
drive you mad
of
till you
both
found out what the
pleasure and
difference was?
satisfaction called
How
the good
could you
life.
sleep nights till you found out
And
what
remember,
the difference was?
The good life is not an
Both
amount.
have equal time.
The good life is an attitude.
But an incredible
act,
difference in
an
outcome.
idea, a discovery.
What makes the difference?
a
Same
search.
time, but a totally
The good life comes from
different
lifestyle
outcome.
that is fully developed.
It's called time management.
Regardless of your bank
and here's
account.
part of it in a
so
nutshell.
that it provides you with a
Look for
constant
the few
sense
things
of
that makes the
joy
most
in
difference,
living,
then spend most of your
and
time
fuels
working
the
on those few
fires of
things.
commitment to all of the disciplines and fundamentals that make life worthwhile.
In our leadership
The
series,
first thing
here's
you
what we
start
learned.
changing is what?
Here's why a lot of people
Your
don't do
philosophy.
well. They
You start
major
changing your
in
mind.
minor
You start
things.
changing how you think. You start picking up new ideas and information.
They
Gather
spend
new
too much
knowledge
time
to
on
make
things
better
that don't
decisions
count.
about what's valuable. And I'm telling you, if you'll do that, your
And
whole
what
life
else?
will change. Your
They
health
spend
will
too
change.
little time on things
Your
that would
relationship
count.
with your family will change.
They've got
Your
the
ability to
ratios
cope with
mixed up.
challenges and problems will change. I'm telling you, income,
So we
promotions,
teach
all
our
of it will
children
change.
what?
If you
Don't
will change,
spend
it won't
major
change. If you won't
time
change,
on
it won't
minor
change.
things, things that
you can
don't
keep your
count.
fingers crossed if you want to and hope they'll straighten it out. You
And
can
don't
wish for the
spend major
wind not to
money
blow
on
quite
minor
as severe,
things,
but I'm
things
telling
that
you,
don't count.
wishing for the wind to change in
It's
your
easy to get
favor
the
we
ratios
call
mixed up and suffer the
naive at
consequences.
best.
In the last 10 years,
Don't do this
a
any
guy
longer.
bought
Wish for a
2
better
tons of
wind. The key is to
donuts
wish
and
for the
2
wisdom
books.
to set a better
And he
sail.
wonders why his life
Utilize
is
whatever
hesitating.
wind that blows
Right
to
away,
take you
we would
wherever
come
you
up
want
with
to
the answer,
go.
couldn't we?
That is the philosophy
spent
I picked
far
up at
too
age
much money
25,
on
and it
what?
revolutionized
Now, both
my
donuts and
whole
books are
life.
okay, but this guy
And
spent
here's what I
far too
found. I
much
found it
money
was
on
easy.
donuts
I
and
got rich
not
by the time I was
enough money
31, and
on
it was easy.
Now, here's my definition of
Books.
easy. Got to jot this down. My definition of easy
I'm telling you,
meaning
that is
something
the
I could
difference.
do. I figure
The
if it's
best
something you can
kept
do,
secret of the
it's
rich. Don't spend
easy.
too much money on things that
Now,
don't
here's
count.
a parenthesis.
Don't spend too much time on things that don't
I
count.
worked hard at it.
And don't
I
spend too
found
little
something I
time
could
on
do
things that
which was
would
easy,
count.
but
It's
I
called the
worked
time
hard
management
at it.
challenge. So, The
I got
few
up early and
things, the
stayed up
half
late, worked hard
dozen,
that
takes
6
care of
years.
the big share of
But
it.
what I did was
Good
easy, meaning
formative
it was something
few.
I
Here's
could
what we
do.
call these.
You say, well,
half-dozen
Mr. Rohn, if
few,
it was so easy,
basics.
how come everybody else around you
Basics,
during that 6 years, how come
fundamentals.
they didn't get rich? Here's
You're going to play
why.
basketball,
It's
right?
easy not
Going to
to
be a pro someday. Hey,
How
you got
else
to
would you describe
got to
it? That's
master
it.
the
You say, no,
fundamentals.
no.
Not
For all the rest of
1,000
them, it
things.
was
A
hard
few
for them,
things you
and it
get
was
very
easy for
good
you.
at. Then
That's
you
not
add your own
true.
flair,
You couldn't
your own
debate me on
personality.
that in front of
But
this
hey,
intelligent
if you want to
audience.
do something extremely
But here's
well
the
and get
challenge.
well
Let me give it to you in a
paid, you
philosophical phrase.
master the
I tend to be a little
fundamentals, master
philosophical.
the
Here it is.
basics.
The things that are
Now, here's what's
easy
exciting about the
to
fundamentals
do
of
are
life.
also easy.
Just jot that down. The
Not to do.
fundamentals of life.
That's
Here's
the
what's
difference between
what's
success and
exciting about
failure.
the fundamentals of life. Number one,
I
there's
did not
just
neglect
a few.
to do the easy things I could
It's not
do every day for
1,000.
6 years. Underline.
There's just a few
I did
fundamentals
not
of life and living well,
neglect.
success.
That's
Just a few
the
fundamentals.
key.
Here's what
I
else
found
is
something
exciting.
easy I
Once
could
you
do
know
that
them, you
led to
know them.
fortune, and I did not neglect to do it. And here's
Once
the
you
problem
got
with
it, you
neglect. It
got
starts
it.
as an infection. And if you don't take care of it, it
And
becomes
here's what
a
else is
disease.
exciting. There's no new ones.
And here's what else is the problem. One neglect leads
So
to
you don't have to
another.
worry about being surprised.
Neglect to do wise things with your money,
Because
you'll probably
fundamentals
neglect
are
to do
what?
wise things with your
Oh.
time.
6,500 years of written
you'll
history
probably
gives
neglect to
us
do
the
wise things with
fundamentals
your
of life.
business. One
And
leads
these
to another,
fundamentals
leads
are
to
old.
another.
You got to beware
Pretty
of
soon,
somebody who
neglect
comes
has you
along
by
with
the
new
throat.
truth. Saying, no,
Emptying your purse,
truth is
emptying your
not
heart,
new.
emptying all of your chances for
Truth is
equities
what?
and power and all the good things.
Old.
What if you should be
Old.
walking around the block every day for your good health?
Now,
and you
there might
don't?
be a new way of looking at it,
I'm
maybe a
telling
new
you,
way
you're
to
on the wrong
apply it to the
track.
20th century.
You should do it. You could do
But
it.
just
You
because
don't
you've
do
discovered
it.
it,
That's
it isn't
called
called new
formula for
truth.
disaster. All you've got to do is let that and a
truth
few
is
other
old.
things accumulate for 6 years.
Beware
and
of
now
somebody
you're
who's got
driving
a
what
new
you don't want to
fundamental. Say,
drive,
no, that
wearing
sentence
what you
doesn't
don't
even
want to
make
wear,
sense.
living where you don't want to live, doing
So
what
be
you
a little
don't want to
suspicious.
do.
Wouldn't you be suspicious
Maybe
of the
having
guy who
become
said we're
what you really
manufacturing
didn't want to
antiques?
become.
Right? You got to come and see
I'm
our
telling you,
plant
that's it.
work.
Just neglect
Say
along,
no.
drift along, and it's got you by the
No,
throat.
you can't manufacture
It'll take
antiques.
all your values, leave you with just
Antiques
a
are
little
what?
bit of dust in
Setting
the summer
goals and
wind, and
having
it'll
a
soon
clear
be
sense
gone.
of purpose is
That's
critical
it.
to
That's where I
achieving
found myself
success
at age
in
25
life.
until my teacher came
However,
along and
it's
said,
not
Mr. Rohn,
enough
up till
to
now
simply
you've
have
messed up.
goals.
Let's
You
see if
must
we can't
also
clean
take
that
them
up, change
seriously
it all.
and commit to
I
them
did.
fully.
Changed my
Without
life.
this level of
Not
focus
just the
and
money,
commitment,
all the rest
it's
of the
easy to
values that
lose
came
sight of
pouring
your
in
goals
when I
and get
understood
distracted
that it
by
was
the many competing
me.
demands of daily
It was
life.
me.
Getting serious
We intend
about your
to when the
goals
idea
means
strikes
taking the
us. We
time
intend
to
to when the
understand
emotion is
why
high.
they are
But now if you don't
important to
translate that
and
into
what you hope
action
to
fairly
achieve by
soon,
pursuing
now
them.
the intent starts
It
to diminish,
requires a
diminish,
deep
diminish.
level of
And a month from
introspection
now it's
and
cold.
a
A
willingness
year
to be
from now,
honest with yourself
can't be found.
about your strengths
So
and
act,
weaknesses,
set up a
as
discipline
well as
when
the
the emotions
challenges
are
that
high
lie
and the
ahead.
idea is strong and clear
Once you
and
have a clear
powerful,
understanding of your
that's the
goals
time to set
and
up
the
the
path
discipline.
you need to take to
Somebody
achieve
talks
them,
about good
you
health
can
and you're
begin to focus
stirred.
your energy
Right.
and resources
You need to
on
get a book
making
on
them
nutrition.
a reality.
Get the book before
Achieving
the
your
idea
dreams
passes
also
and
requires
before
a
the emotion
significant
gets
amount
cold.
of commitment.
Go for
This
the
means
book.
staying
Start
the
the
course,
library.
even when
Start
things
the
get tough,
process.
and not
Fall
giving
on
up
the
in the
floor.
face
Do
of
some
adversity.
push-ups.
It means
Action.
making sacrifices
Gotta take
and
action.
prioritizing your goals over
Now, here's
other
what's
less
important about
important
discipline. All
activities.
disciplines affect each
It
other.
also means being willing
fact,
to
here's a
take
good
risks
philosophical
and
phrase.
step out
Everything
of your comfort
affects
zone to
everything
pursue
else.
your dreams.
Nothing
In order to
stands
stay
alone.
committed to your goals,
Don't be naive
it's
in
important
saying, well,
to
this
have a
doesn't
support
matter. I'm
system
telling you,
in
everything
place.
matters.
This might
There are
include
some
friends
things that
and
matter
family
more than
members
others,
who
but
can
there isn't
offer
anything that
encouragement
doesn't
and
matter.
support, as well
That's
as
why
mentors
action is so
or
important. The
coaches
least
who
action,
can
the
provide
smallest
guidance
action.
and advice.
Take it.
It's also important
When
to
you
stay
start accomplishing
motivated
and the
and
value starts
focused
to
on your
return from that
goals
one action,
by
it'll inspire you
regularly
to do the next
revisiting
one and
your
the next one
vision
and the next
and
one.
reminding
You
yourself
start walking
of the
around the
reasons
block, it'll
why
inspire you to
set
get
out
an
to
apple.
achieve
Get an
them
apple,
in the
it'll
first
inspire you to
place.
get a book. Get a book, it'll
In
inspire you to
conclusion,
get a journal.
getting serious
Get a
about your
journal, it'll
goals
inspire
and
you to
committing
grow,
fully
develop
to
some
achieving your
skills.
dreams
All
is essential
disciplines
for
affect
success
each other.
in life.
Every lack
It
affects
requires
the
a
rest.
deep
Every
level
new
of
affects the
introspection,
rest.
focus,
The
and
key
commitment,
is
but
to
the
diminish the
rewards are
lack
well worth the effort.
effort.
set up the new.
By staying
And
true
you've
to your
started a
vision
whole
and
new
staying
life
committed to your
process.
goals, you can achieve
Also,
great things
one more thought
and
on
live a
discipline. Here's the
fulfilling
greatest
and
value of
rewarding
discipline.
life.
Self-worth. Self-esteem. People are teaching self-esteem these days, but they don't connect it to discipline. The least lack of discipline, and it starts to erode our psyche. One of the greatest temptations is to just ease up a little bit. The slightest lack of doing your best starts to erode the psyche. Instead of doing your best, doing just a little less than your best. Sure enough. You say, well, it's just going to affect my sales. No, it's going to affect your consciousness. It's going to affect your philosophy. Now you've begun in the slightest way to affect your own philosophy.
I got better day by day and week by week and month by month, and I'm asking you to do the same thing until you can develop a long arm and a long reach, until you can develop influence that won't quit. Touch people next year you couldn't touch this year. Touch people now you couldn't touch before. Conduct a meeting now you couldn't conduct before. Heart and soul now mixed in there that wasn't theirs, missing before. I'm asking all of you to get better in spite of the winters, in spite of the downturn, the money downturn, the social downturn, the personal downturn, whatever it is. Just get stronger. Get better.